Welcome to my channel, Truth Drama Stories. My name is Ethan Caldwell, and this is the story of how my own brother tried to erase me from my father's legacy, and how he lost everything in front of a room full of people who believed his lies. Before I begin, take a moment to like the video and subscribe to the channel if stories like this speak to you. And tell me in the comments where you are watching from and what time it is there right now. Because this story didn't begin with anger. It began with silence. The kind of silence that settles into a place after someone important is gone. My father, Daniel Caldwell, died on a cold morning in November. The hospital room still smelled like antiseptic and old coffee. Machines stood quiet. His chair by the window was empty. For 40 years, he had been the kind of man who filled every room without trying. And now, there was nothing. Nothing except the restaurant. Caldwell's. It sat on the corner of Maple Street and 3rd Avenue. A simple brick building with wide glass windows and a red door that stuck during winter. It wasn't fancy. It wasn't modern. But it was alive. My father opened it in 1987 with money he didn't have and hope he refused to lose. He used to tell me, "Our restaurant isn't about food, Ethan. It's about people feeling like they belong." And for 35 years, people did. After he died, everyone assumed things would continue the same way. My older brother, Ryan Caldwell, stepped forward naturally. He was confident, outspoken, good with people. He stood at the front counter during the Memorial Week. He shook hands. He accepted condolences. He looked like a leader. I stayed in the background. That's where I had always been comfortable. I was the younger brother. Quiet. Careful. I handled the numbers. The suppliers. The repairs. The things nobody noticed until they stopped working. Ryan handled the smiles. I handled everything else. At least, that's what I believed. The first month after my father's death passed in a blur. Customers came with flowers. Old friends shared stories. Some cried at their tables. One night, after closing, I stood alone in the kitchen. The lights hummed above me. The stainless steel counters reflected empty space. I rested my hand on the prep table my father used every morning at 5. I could almost see him there. Sleeves rolled up. Coffee beside him. Quiet. Focused. I whispered, "I'll take care of it, Dad." And I meant it. For a while, things felt normal. Ryan started making more decisions. He talked about expansion, marketing, new branding. He used words like growth and opportunity. I focused on paying the bills. But slowly, something began to change. Ryan stopped asking for my input. At first, it was small things. He hired a new hostess without telling me. He changed suppliers. He rearranged the dining room. When I asked him about it, he smiled. "Relax, Ethan," he said. "I'm just trying to help." His tone sounded friendly. But something about it felt final. Like the decision was already made. One afternoon, I noticed a new sign on the office door. Manager, Ryan Caldwell. I stared at it for a long time. My name wasn't there. That night, I sat at my apartment desk and opened the financial records. I reviewed every invoice, every payment, every account. Numbers had always been honest. People weren't. At first, nothing seemed wrong. Revenue was steady. Expenses were normal. But then I noticed something small. A transfer. $4,800. It was labeled consulting fee. I frowned. We never hired consultants. I searched the records. There was another transfer. $3,200. Another consulting fee. Then another. And another. I felt something tighten in my chest. I checked the recipient account. RC Hospitality Solutions. I didn't recognize it. I leaned back in my chair and stared at the screen. My hands felt cold. I told myself there was a simple explanation. There had to be. The next morning, I arrived early. Ryan stood near the front counter, laughing with a customer. He looked relaxed, confident, like nothing was wrong. I waited until the customer left. Then I walked up to him. "Ryan," I said quietly, "what's RC Hospitality Solutions?" His smile didn't disappear. But it changed. Just slightly. "It's a consulting company," he said. "For what?" He shrugged. "Helping improve the business." I watched his face carefully. Who hired them? He looked at me. I did. The words landed between us. Heavy. And how much are we paying them? I asked. He sighed. Ethan, you worry too much. That's not an answer. He stepped closer. I'm handling it. I felt something crack inside me. Not loudly. Not violently. Just enough to know it would never be the same again. This is Dad's restaurant, I said. Ryan's expression hardened. And I'm making sure it survives. His voice was calm. Controlled. But there was something else in it. Ownership. I didn't argue. Not yet. I went back to the office and closed the door. My hands trembled as I opened the records again. This time, I searched deeper. I traced the consulting company. Registration records. Ownership filings. And then I saw it. Ryan Caldwell. He owned it. He was paying himself. Using the restaurant's money. I stared at the screen. My heart pounded in my ears. The room felt smaller. Quieter. I whispered, why? There was no answer. Only numbers. Cold. Precise. Honest. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat at my desk with printed records spread around me. Transfer after transfer. Month after month. Money leaving the restaurant. Going to him. I remembered my father working 16-hour days. Missing holidays. Fixing broken equipment himself because he couldn't afford repairs. And now this. I felt anger rise slowly. Not explosive. Not wild. Sharp. Focused. The next morning, Ryan called me. His voice sounded casual. We need to talk. I drove to the restaurant. He stood outside, holding a folder. His posture was relaxed. Too relaxed. He handed it to me. Sign this, he said. I opened the folder. Legal documents. Ownership transfer. My name appeared once. At the bottom. Signature line. I looked up. What is this? He smiled. It's time to simplify things. My stomach dropped. This transfers your ownership share to me, I said. He nodded. You don't need the stress, Ethan. His voice sounded gentle. Almost kind. We both know I'm the one running things. I couldn't breathe. Cars passed behind him. People walked by. The world continued like nothing was happening. This was Dad's restaurant, I said quietly. Ryan's smile faded. And I'm protecting it. His tone turned firm. Sign the papers. I looked at him. Really looked at him. The brother I grew up with. The person I trusted. And I realized something. He wasn't asking. He was telling. I closed the folder slowly. I need time, I said. His jaw tightened. There isn't much time. I met his eyes. For what? He hesitated. Then he said the words that changed everything. We already have a buyer interested. My heart stopped. A buyer? He nodded. They're offering a lot. I felt the ground shift beneath me. You're selling it? He didn't answer directly. He didn't need to. I understood. He stepped closer. We only invited people who actually matter to the negotiations, he said quietly. Just sign the release papers. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. The words hit harder than any shout ever could. I said nothing. I simply held the folder. He smiled again. Confident. Certain. Like the outcome was already decided. And in that moment, he believed he had already won. The next morning, I arrived earlier than usual. The street was still quiet. The sky was pale gray. The restaurant stood in silence. Luna Bay looked peaceful from the outside. But inside, something felt wrong. I unlocked the front door. The familiar click echoed too loudly. I stepped inside slowly. The air felt cold. Not physically cold. Emotionally cold. I stood there for a moment. Listening. Nothing. No hum from the fridge. No ticking clock. No life. Just silence. I walked toward the office. My hands felt heavy. I did not know why. But my chest felt tight. I opened the office door. Everything looked normal. The desk. The chair. The cabinet. But something inside me refused to relax. I sat down. I turned on the computer. The screen flickered to life. My reflection stared back at me. Tired eyes. Pale face. Someone who had given everything. Someone who had trusted too much. I opened the financial records. Numbers filled the screen. Orders. Payments. Expenses. Everything looked routine. At first. Then I noticed something strange. A withdrawal. $5,000. My stomach dropped. I leaned closer. I checked the date. 2 nights ago. My heart started beating faster. I did not remember approving that. I never approved large withdrawals without review. Never. I scrolled down. Another withdrawal. 3,000. Then another. 7,000. My fingers went cold. I whispered, no, this can't be right. I opened the authorization column. My breath stopped. The approval name was clear. Marcus Hale. I stared at it. My business partner. My friend. Or at least, someone I believed was my friend. I leaned back slowly. The chair creaked beneath me. My mind tried to find excuses. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe there was a reason. Maybe he told me and I forgot. But deep inside, I knew. Something was very wrong. I stood up quickly. I walked to the cabinet. I opened it. The ownership binder sat exactly where it always was. Black leather. Slightly worn. It held everything. Contracts. Agreements. Legal documents. Our foundation. Our truth. I placed it on the desk. My hands hesitated. For a moment, I did not want to open it. Because once I did, everything could change. I took a slow breath. Then I opened it. Page by page. Every signature. Every agreement. Every promise. My eyes scanned the ownership percentages. My name. Marcus's name. 50%. 50%. Equal. Fair. At least, that was what I believed. I kept flipping. Then I saw something I did not remember signing. An amendment. My chest tightened. I leaned closer. The date was 6 months ago. I frowned. 6 months ago, I was in the hospital. Exhausted. Sick. Burned out. Marcus handled everything during that time. I trusted him completely. My eyes moved to the ownership line. My breath stopped. My percentage had changed. From 50% to 20%. I froze. The room felt like it was spinning. No. The word barely escaped my lips. I checked Marcus's percentage. 80%. My hands started shaking. I flipped back. Checked again. Same numbers. Same truth. I felt something break inside me. Not loudly. Not violently. Quietly. Like glass cracking in silence. Every late night. Every sacrifice. Every moment I gave to this place. All of it. Taken. Without me knowing. I dropped into the chair. My mind raced. How? How did this happen? Then I saw it. My signature. At the bottom of the amendment. My name. Written in ink. But I did not remember signing it. Not clearly. Not consciously. Then the memory hit me. The hospital room. The white walls. The machines. Marcus standing beside my bed. Holding papers. He said softly, just routine. Updates. Nothing urgent. I was weak. Exhausted. I trusted him. I signed. Without reading. Without thinking. I closed my eyes. Pain filled my chest. Not physical pain. Betrayal. Pure betrayal. I whispered, he planned this. The office door suddenly opened behind me. I turned quickly. Sophie Bennett stood there. She froze when she saw my face. Ethan, she said gently. Her voice was careful. Concerned. What's wrong? I could not answer immediately. I just looked at her. She stepped closer. Her eyes moved to the binder. Then to the screen. Then back to me. Her expression changed. What happened? My voice came out weak. He took it. She frowned. Took what? I swallowed hard. The restaurant. Silence filled the room. Her face went pale. What do you mean? I turned the binder toward her. Look. She stepped closer. She read slowly. Her eyes widened. She whispered no. Her hand covered her mouth. This isn't possible. I nodded slowly. But it is. She looked at me. Pain filled her eyes. I'm so sorry. Those words broke something deeper inside me. Not because they were cruel. because they were kind. And kindness hurt more in that moment. I stood up suddenly. My exhaustion turned into something else. Something stronger. Something sharper. Clarity. I need copies of everything, I said. Sophie nodded immediately. Yes, of course. Her voice was steady. Loyal. She understood. This was not over. Not yet. We worked in silence. The printer hummed. Page after page. Evidence. Truth. Proof. Each paper felt heavier than the last. Each page told the same story. Betrayal. After an hour, Sophie handed me the stack. What are you going to do? I looked down at the papers. Then back at her. I'm going to fight. The words surprised even me. But they felt right. For the first time in months. I did not feel weak. I felt awake. Marcus arrived 2 hours later. I heard his footsteps before I saw him. Confident. Relaxed. Like nothing had changed. He walked into the office. He smiled. Ethan, he said warmly. You're early. I stared at him. Really stared at him. Every detail. Every expression. Every lie hidden behind that smile. He paused. His smile faded slightly. What's wrong? I did not answer. I simply held up the binder. His eyes flickered. Just for a second. But I saw it. Fear. Then it was gone. Replaced by calm. Calculated calm. He stepped closer. You found it. His voice was quiet. Careful. Controlled. My heart pounded. You didn't tell me. He sighed softly. Like he was tired. Like I was the problem. It was necessary. Necessary. The word echoed in my mind. I felt anger rise. Pure. Hot. Sharp. Necessary. I repeated. He nodded slowly. You were unstable. The business needed protection. Protection. I laughed. But there was no humor in it. I built this place. He tilted his head slightly. And I saved it. His words hit harder than any punch. Saved it. From me. I stepped closer. My voice dropped. You betrayed me. He did not deny it. He did not apologize. He simply said, I did what had to be done. Silence. Heavy silence. I realized something in that moment. He did not see me as a partner. He saw me as an obstacle. Something to remove. Something to replace. I nodded slowly. My anger cooled. Replaced by something colder. Resolve. This isn't over, I said quietly. He smiled again. Confident. Certain. It already is. But he was wrong. He just did not know it yet. I picked up the copies. I held them firmly. Not as paper. As weapons. As truth. As power. And for the first time since the betrayal, I felt something new rise inside me. Not pain. Not fear. Strength. I did not argue with Marcus that morning. There was no point. He believed the documents protected him. He believed my signature made everything legal. He believed I would accept it. He was wrong. I left the office without another word. Sophie watched me from behind the counter. Her eyes followed me to the door. Ethan, she called softly. I stopped. You're not alone. I nodded once. Then I stepped outside. The sunlight felt too bright. Cars passed. People walked. The world looked normal. But my life had shifted. I drove home in silence. No music. No phone calls. Just the sound of the engine and my thoughts. When I reached my apartment, I placed the stack of copies on the kitchen table. I stared at them for a long time. Then I opened my laptop. I searched for one name. Olivia Grant. Corporate attorney. She had represented my father years ago during a lease dispute. I remembered her clearly. Sharp eyes. Calm voice. Precise words. If anyone could see through this, it would be her. I called her office. Her assistant answered. I introduced myself. There was a pause. Then she said, Ms. Grant remembers your father. She can see you tomorrow morning. The next day, I sat in a quiet conference room. Olivia entered with a folder in her hand. She offered a small, respectful smile. I'm sorry about your father, she said. Thank you, I replied. I slid the documents across the table. She adjusted her glasses and began reading. The room was silent except for the soft turning of pages. Her face did not change. No shock. No emotion. Just focus. After several minutes, she placed the papers down carefully. "Tell me exactly how this was signed," she said. I explained everything. The hospital. The medication. The exhaustion. Marcus saying it was routine. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she folded her hands. "This amendment is legally filed," she said. My stomach dropped. But, she continued, "that does not make it immune to challenge." I leaned forward. "How?" Her eyes met mine. "If you signed under medical distress without full disclosure, it can be argued as undue influence." The words felt like air returning to my lungs. "There's more," she added. She pointed to a clause in the document. The amendment required both parties to receive independent legal review before signing. I frowned. I never spoke to a lawyer. She nodded slowly. "And there is no record that you waived that right?" Silence filled the room. Hope crept in quietly. "Meaning?" I asked. "Meaning," she said calmly, "this may not hold up in court." I felt something shift inside me. Not relief. Not yet. But possibility. She leaned back slightly. "However," she added, "this will not be quick. Or simple." "I don't care," I said. And I meant it. She studied me carefully. "Are you prepared for what this will cost?" "Money. Time. Energy. Reputation." I thought about the kitchen. The prep table. My father's hands covered in flour. "Yes," I said quietly. "I am." She nodded once. "Then we begin." The next weeks were relentless. Documents. Statements. Bank records. Olivia's team requested everything. I provided it all. Sophie helped quietly after hours. She stayed late without asking for overtime. She printed records. Organized files. Labeled evidence. We built a binder. Thick. Structured. Precise. Every transfer Marcus made. Every withdrawal. Every financial inconsistency. The consulting payments. The unexplained expenses. It was all there. Page by page. Truth stacked in order. One evening, after everyone left, I sat alone in the restaurant dining area. The chairs were upside down on tables. The lights were dim. I looked around slowly. I remembered being 10 years old, standing on a stool to reach the counter. My father guiding my hands as I learned to knead dough. He never rushed me. He never took control. He let me learn. Let me fail. Let me grow. He trusted me. And I trusted Marcus. That thought still burned. A week later, Olivia called. "Marcus has retained counsel," she said. I expected that. "He's confident," she added. Of course he was. He believed he had prepared for everything. But so had we. The mediation was scheduled for 3 weeks later. Neutral office. Private setting. Both sides present. The night before the meeting, I could not sleep. I sat at my desk. The binder in front of me. I opened it slowly. I ran my fingers across the tabs. Financial transfers. Ownership clause. Hospital timeline. Witness statements. Sophie had written one. She described my condition during that time. Exhausted. Pale. Disoriented. I swallowed hard. I had not realized how bad it looked until I read her words. I closed the binder gently. Then I picked up my father's old photo frame from the shelf. It was taken inside the restaurant. He stood in the kitchen, smiling. Apron tied loosely around his waist. He looked proud. I whispered, "I won't let him take this." The mediation day arrived quietly. No drama. No cameras. Just a conference room and 4 people. Marcus sat across from me. He looked composed. Polished suit. Relaxed posture. His lawyer sat beside him. Olivia sat next to me. The mediator began formally. Calm tone. Neutral language. We presented first. Olivia spoke clearly. No emotion. Just facts. Medical timeline. Lack of independent counsel. Financial irregularities. Violation of amendment procedure. Marcus's expression remained steady until Olivia presented the consulting transfers. His jaw tightened slightly. Small, but visible. Then came the moment. Olivia slid a document across the table. Bank confirmation records, showing that Marcus transferred business funds into a personal investment account. Not company operations. Not expansion. Personal investments. The room fell silent. Marcus's lawyer flipped through the pages quickly. His confidence faded. Marcus looked at the paper, then at me. His eyes changed. For the first time, he understood. This was not going to disappear quietly. The mediator cleared his throat. Mr. Hale, he said calmly, would you like to respond? Marcus leaned back slowly. He looked at me. Not angry. Not apologetic. Just calculating. Then he spoke. It was strategic. Olivia did not blink. Strategic for whom, she asked. He did not answer immediately. And that pause, that silence, said everything. Hours passed. Offers were made, rejected, revised. The tension never exploded. It tightened slowly, like a wire being pulled. Finally, the mediator spoke again. Based on the documentation presented, he said carefully, a court is likely to invalidate the amendment. Marcus's lawyer whispered something to him. Marcus stared at the table. Then he exhaled. Long. Slow. He looked up. What do you want? He asked me directly. Not Olivia. Me. I met his eyes. I want my share restored. He said nothing. And I want a full audit of the last 12 months. His jaw tightened. And if we find further misconduct, I added quietly, I will pursue full legal action. Silence. Heavy. Marcus looked at his lawyer again. Then back at me. The confidence he carried for months was gone. He nodded once. Fine. The word was short. Controlled. But it was surrender. The agreement was drafted that evening. Ownership returned to 50%. Full financial transparency. Independent oversight. Mandatory dual authorization for withdrawals. Every safeguard in place. When we left the building, the sky was dark. Olivia walked beside me. You handled that well, she said. I nodded quietly. But inside, I did not feel victorious. I felt steady. Stronger. Clearer. Marcus walked ahead toward his car. He stopped briefly. He did not turn around. You could have just let it go, he said. His voice carried in the night air. I answered calmly. It was never yours to take. He got into his car and drove away. The next morning, I returned to the restaurant. The door opened with the same familiar click. But it felt different. The air felt lighter. Sophie looked up when I walked in. She searched my face. I nodded once. She smiled. Small, but genuine. And for the first time since the betrayal, I did not feel like something was breaking. I felt like something had been rebuilt. Not the restaurant. Not yet. But me. And this time, I was ready. I stood in the center of Luna Bay that morning. The sunlight entered through the front windows. It stretched across the wooden floor. It touched the tables. It touched the walls. Everything looked the same. But nothing felt the same. I walked slowly toward the kitchen. My hand brushed against the counter. The surface was cool. Familiar. Real. For weeks, this place had felt like it was slipping away. Now, it was still here. Still standing. Still mine. Sophie entered behind me. She carried a small stack of invoices. She stopped when she saw me standing there. You okay? She asked gently. I nodded. Yes. And for the first time, it was true. She smiled softly. Good, she said. Because we have work to do. Her words were simple. But they meant everything. Work meant movement. Work meant life. Work meant we were not finished. Marcus did not come in that day. Or the next. Or the next. His absence was quiet, but noticeable. The agreement forced him to remain a partner. But his control was gone. His illusion was gone. And he knew it. 1 week later, he finally returned. I saw him standing near the entrance. He looked around slowly. Like a stranger. Not an owner. Not a leader. Just a man standing in a place he no longer understood. Our eyes met briefly. No words were exchanged. None were needed. Some things do not need to be spoken. They exist clearly in silence. He walked to the office. Closed the door. and stayed there. We operated separately, professionally, carefully. The trust was gone, and it would never return. But the truth had been restored, and that was enough. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. Luna Bay began to breathe again. Customers returned. The kitchen filled with sound. Plates clattered. Voices laughed. Life moved forward. One afternoon, I found Sophie standing near the window. She watched the dining area quietly. "You built something strong," she said. I shook my head slightly. "We built it." She smiled, but her eyes were serious. "You fought for it." I thought about that. Fighting was never my nature. I believed in trust, in loyalty, in partnership. But I learned something important. Trust must be protected, not given blindly. Strength is not loud. It is steady. It is patient. It waits until the moment it is needed. Then it stands. One evening, I stayed late after closing. Alone. The chairs were empty. The lights were low. I walked into the office. The same office where everything changed. I opened the cabinet. The ownership binder sat inside. I took it out slowly, placed it on the desk, opened it. The amendment was still there. But now it was marked. Invalidated. Corrected. Balanced. Truth restored. I ran my fingers across the page. Not with anger. Not with pain. But with understanding. This binder no longer represented betrayal. It represented survival. Proof that I did not break. Proof that I did not disappear. Proof that I stood when it mattered most. I closed it gently and returned it to its place. 6 months later, Marcus requested a meeting. We sat across from each other. The same office. The same silence. But different people. He looked tired. Older. Not in years. In weight. Emotional weight. "I'm selling my share," he said. His voice was calm, but empty. I studied him carefully. This was not defeat. This was release. "For how much?" I asked. He gave a number. Fair. Reasonable. Not greedy. Not desperate. Just finished. "I'll buy it," I said. He nodded. No surprise. He expected that answer. The paperwork was completed within weeks. 50% became 100%. Full ownership. Full responsibility. Full truth. The day the transfer finalized, I stood outside the restaurant. I looked up at the sign. Luna Bay. My father's dream. My sacrifice. My fight. My future. Sophie stepped outside beside me. "So," she said softly, "how does it feel?" I thought for a moment. Not proud. Not victorious. Peaceful. "It feels like home," I answered. She smiled. And that smile held no fear. No uncertainty. Only belief. Time passed. The restaurant grew stronger. Not because of money. Not because of control. Because of truth. Because of foundation. Because of people who believed in it. And believed in me. One night, after closing, I stood in the center of the dining area again. Just like before. But this time, there was no pain. No fear. No betrayal. Only clarity. I understood something now. Ownership is not ink on paper. It is not signatures. It is not percentages. Ownership is sacrifice. It is presence. It is standing when everything tries to push you away. Marcus took my signature. But he never took my ownership. Because ownership lived inside me. In every early morning. In every late night. In every moment I refused to give up. And that was something no document could erase. I looked around slowly. Every chair. Every table. Every memory. Still here. Still real. Still mine. And in that quiet moment, I allowed myself to breathe fully. Not as someone fighting to survive, but as someone who had survived. Welcome to my channel, Truth Drama Stories. My name is Ethan Cole, and this was not just a story about a restaurant. It was a story about trust, about betrayal, about standing up when everything falls apart. Sometimes, the people closest to you will try to take what you built. Sometimes, they will smile while they do it. Sometimes, they will believe you are too weak to fight back. But strength does not come from never falling. It comes from rising when it matters most. If you have ever been betrayed, if you have ever felt something taken from you, if you have ever stood alone in the dark, remember this. You are not powerless. Your truth is your strength, and no one can take what lives inside you. Thank you for listening. This is Ethan Cole, and this is Truth Drama Stories.